BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is bullish on Ethereum. And this is no joke. This is something nobody saw coming. Let's get started before the train leaves the station. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, the company with over $10 trillion under management, explains to us why Ethereum will not only survive but also dominate. Larry Fink says the role of Ethereum as a blockchain can grow dramatically. And why is that the case? Because there is more acceptance, and transparency and analytics will also expand the market. It's no longer just about regulation. No, says Larry Fink, that's the conflict. Regulators versus innovation.
The analytics are directly related to the specific asset, and this functionality will be significantly expanded in the future.
Larry Fink says it's like the development of the mortgage market or the high-yield market decades ago. At first it was slow, almost hesitant, like an engine sputtering, but then with better data and analytics they took off. Larry Fink is convinced that we will see a massive expansion of the market for digital assets. And do you know what that means? Think back to the times when mortgages were a niche topic. Today, they're a giant. And that's exactly what Larry Fink is pointing out. The same will happen with Ethereum, and Ethereum will grow in a similar way, step by step, until it becomes inevitable. But wait, that's just the beginning. Larry Fink sees the next big step. The tokenization of financial assets. And not just those. Every stock, every bond will get its own identification, its own ID. Everything will then be recorded in a single main ledger or ledger. And that will affect us too. They also want to introduce a digital ID for us, meaning for people. And it will come. They will sell it to us as a way to combat crime, illegal activities, money laundering, fraud, and so on. Market it. And of course, also as a simplification. But in reality, it is control over us. Then there will be personalized strategies that are perfectly tailored to you and that, for example, support instant settlements. No more waiting, no high costs. And Larry Fink calls this a technological revolution. And this changes how we see, feel, and even live money. In the past, for example, you had to jump through bureaucratic hoops to trade a bond. With tokenization, according to Larry Fink, everything becomes seamless, like a flowing river. It flows effortlessly, costs drop dramatically because basically it's programmable, no more middlemen collecting commissions. And Larry Fink emphasizes that this won't just be for the wealthy but for everyone. It's like switching from an old bicycle to a car.
The process of making the upgrade is a crucial step that ensures the system is brought up to the latest standards and functionalities, thereby enhancing its overall performance and user experience significantly. Every investor, you and I, have our own number, our own identification. We can free ourselves from all the issues surrounding activities with bonds, stocks, and digital assets by having tokenization. But the most important thing is that we can customize strategies through tokenization when it's for each individual. We would have instant settlement capability. Consider the various costs and complexities typically associated with traditional financial instruments like bonds and stocks. However, if you were to implement tokenization, all transactions and settlements would become virtually instantaneous and entirely immediate, because
This is not merely just a simple line item. Rather, we firmly believe that this represents a profound and significant technological transformation that is poised to revolutionize various financial aspects and processes. Furthermore, this transformation is robustly validated and securely confirmed on the underlying network, ensuring its integrity and reliability. Others like Franklin, Templeton, and Grayscale are now doing this as well. And the SEC, that is the US Securities and Exchange Commission, is still hesitating, opting for longer deadlines, and so on. Basically, what we are seeing right now is innovation versus bureaucracy, but BlackRock is pushing ahead. Upon approval, the ETF stakes ETH through trusted providers, secures the network, and collects payouts. Proof of stake in action, basically locking up tokens, protecting the network, earning money. The ETH ETF has already attracted $7.2 billion since June of last year. And let's dive even deeper now because it's getting more and more exciting. Staking is like planting a tree. You give something up, you simply lock away your tokens, and in return, it grows and bears fruit in the form of rewards. And in the Ethereum network, that validates the transactions and makes everything more secure. And BlackRock, as a giant, naturally brings credibility for the masses into the mix. They're not just anybody they manage, or rather, they oversee the world's money. And if they want to stake, that sends a signal to crypto. It's mainstream. Bitcoin is mainstream, and the US Securities and Exchange Commission then has to decide whether this counts as a security. But the filing basically shows that trust is growing, and we saw the same thing with the Bitcoin ETF. BlackRock submitted an application and the Bitcoin ETF was approved. And it's very likely that we'll soon see the staking option for Ethereum as well. One thing is certain, we can see that trust is growing. Now just imagine your ETF doesn't just earn from price increases, but also from passive returns. That's basically like earning interest. On steroids, and with $7.2 billion, this is no longer a toy. Serious money is flowing in. And yes, it's getting bigger and bigger. And according to Strat's forecast, Ethereum will reach $4,000 by the end of the month. His strategy predicts all of this, but that's not even Ethereum's peak. They assume that Ethereum could even rise to as much as $15,000 in this cycle. Why? Because he won. Networks like Ethereum get higher multiples like software companies, and that's purely a signal value.
And the first milestone is $4,000, then $10,000 to $15,000 by the end of the year.
So Tom Lee isn't a dreamer. He bases all of this on data. Think of Circle, the stablecoin company. It's valued with multiples reminiscent of tech giants. Ethereum as the foundational layer, the big question is that the infrastructure everything is built on, like highways for cars. The more traffic, the more valuable it becomes. And with growing adoption decentralized finance, DeFi, NFTs, smart contracts, this value is exploding. $4,000 sounds attainable, but $15,000, that's the checkpoint then? And Tom Lee says it makes sense, because Larry, receive higher valuations than consumer products, for example. It's more abstract, but
this makes it significantly more powerful and highly effective. We target for our price targets are at Fundstrat. I wear a couple of hats. I'm the president of Bitwise, but I'm also the head of research at Fundstrat. And I also have a third role, the CIO of Fundstrat Capital. But at Fundstrat, Sean Farrell is the head of the digital asset reserve. He gave me some informal targets. One of the approaches he considers is if we look at Circle and its free cash multiplier, it's about 130 times EBITDA. On an equivalent basis, Ethereum is closer to 15,000. And that makes sense. I think that Layer 1S, as you know, when you get into Layer 1S, you should assign a higher theoretical application multiple because it's the same reason why software companies get higher multiples than vendors, right? The further you are from the customer, the more it's a pure signal, and you apply higher multiples to that business. And I think in the near future, our technical strategist, Mark Newton, thought we could see 4,000 for Ethereum by the end of the month. But that's not where it peaks. He just thinks that's the first target. And then I think if Sean Farrell's math is correct, then I think 10,000 to 15,000 also makes sense.
By the end of the year,
and just imagine you're holding Ethereum and by the end of the year, the price simply triples. And that's not speculation, that's calculated risk. Based on trends, but wait, the boom doesn't stop with Ethereum. Matt Hougan, the CIO of Bitwise, is predicting a Bitcoin price of over $200,000 per Bitcoin by the end of the year. There's so much good news. The US strategic reserve with Bitcoin, better regulation, institutions are adopting. So why isn't it rising even higher right now? Economic uncertainty stocks are falling, risk assets are suffering, but as soon as the volatility subsides, an explosion of everything. Then we'll see prices for Ethereum, Bitcoin, and so on that we can't even imagine right now. That means, keep an eye on the demand ETFs with inflows. Companies like MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet are continuing to buy Bitcoin, even governments are buying. We have a fixed supply of 21 million, and many expect that we'll see $165,000 per Bitcoin by the end of the year if the demand materializes, and all the signs are pointing that way. After that, even $200,000 per Bitcoin.
OU prediction is the Bitcoins. Will it eclipse the Dow by the end of the year? Is there a huge amount of good news in Bitcoin? You have a US strategic reserve With the government now owning Bitcoin, there are improvements on the regulatory front. There is institutional adoption. You may be wondering why the price is lower. The reason is that we have a lot of economic uncertainty, which has caused not just Bitcoin, but all risky assets to fall. Stocks are down significantly, so the market has dipped. But I think over time, as that economic volatility starts to subside, you could see all that good news catch up to Bitcoin.
What do we need to see? Are there signs we need to look for to see all that happen?
We could make a new high this year. You have to watch the demand. There are three things to watch. Are ETFs seeing inflows? Are corporations like MicroStrategy and Tesla continuing to buy Bitcoin? And are governments buying Bitcoin? I think the wider door target is a lock. So I would keep an eye on that. It would help if the economy improves. If we don't have a recession, that would help. But it's really about, does the demand materialize in the way I think it will? Every sign I see suggests it. That ETFs are buying, corporations are buying, and governments are buying. That's why I'm so bullish. We have to keep buying in order to reach that target.
And that's what Hougan says, and he's a veteran, he sees the patterns. And the US government holds Bitcoin. That's like a stamp of legitimacy. Institutions are pumping billions into ETFs. Think about the inflows that are already moving billions. MicroStrategy, they've made Bitcoin their core, relentlessly keep buying Bitcoin, and MetaPlanet, the Japanese company, it's a similar story there. They keep stacking more and more Bitcoin, so the supply is as scarce as gold in a mine only 21 million. And that's the incentive. And if the economy stabilizes and there's no recession, money will flow in massively. Matt Dugan warns, it depends on demand, but all indicators regulatory improvements adoption point to a steep rise. Bitcoin at $200,000, your portfolio will explode, your freedom will grow. And if you want to learn more about how you can achieve financial independence through Bitcoin and crypto, click the link in the description below the video. Watch the video, even if you just want to store your crypto securely offline. Experts see the potential, Ethereum as a platform for the future, Bitcoin as digital gold, and together, a revolution. Think about tokenization. It could completely transform the entire financial market. And that's exactly what Larry Fink from BlackRock wants. From stocks to real estate, everything tokenized, tradable in seconds without middlemen. And staking adds returns on top, making it even more attractive for long-term investors and for prices. Tom Lee's forecasts are based on multiples that we see in tech. Amazon, Google, Ethereum is software on steroids. And with Bitcoin, it's scarce, in demand, and the demand keeps rising. And it keeps going. Governments are buying it, and that's now the game changer in today's world. With inflation and security, crypto then becomes a safe haven. Bitcoin becomes the safe haven, but you have to act now. Research the ETFs. Check out the filings with the securities regulator. Trading Blade Rocks shows the big upcoming Tom Lee targets. Realistically, based on all the data and Newton, $200,000 per Bitcoin is achievable with the current momentum. $200,000 per Bitcoin is within reach given the current dynamics. So what are you going to do now? Don't wait, dive in. Get into cryptocurrencies, research Bitcoin, invest, and be part of the revolution.